Hello, this is Caleb Barney with Russell Real Estate, and today I just wanted to go over Lawrence Yoon's instant reaction. He is the chief economist for the National Association of Realtors, and oftentimes I am in alignment with what he says. Not always, but I think that he does provide good insight, and I take into account, what he says versus what other economists say versus what I'm seeing and what my thoughts are too. And of course, in my opinion, he is going to be biased because he works for a trade association, the National Association of Realtors. So what he says, especially since it's so public, oftentimes it's it's obviously going to be in the best interest of realtors. So take that with a grain of salt. But here's his instant reaction coming out yesterday after some of the inflation numbers. Or I'm sorry, 2 days ago now. So he said, low inflation means low mortgage rates. Therefore, decelerating consumer prices could steadily lift home sales and increase home production in a few months. CPI rose by 3% from 1 year ago, which is much lower than the 8 to 9% hikes of last summer and is the slowest gain in over 2 years. Falling gasoline prices and healthcare service costs were helpful. Rents are still climbing at a brisk pace, rising by 8.3%, but have turned the corner for sure. Rents were rising at 8.8% in the early part of the year, so this is the slowest gain we've seen in 7 months. The 1 month rent gain of 0.5%, or a 5.8% annualized gain, is suggesting further calming in rents in upcoming months. Moreover, with so many empty apartment units under construction, rents could plateau by this time next year. The Federal Reserve's mandate is to contain inflation and help the economy. It misjudged the early strength of inflation, which got out of control. Now it could misjudge on the economic front. Monetary policy works with a long lag time. The Fed appears too focused on the lagging economic indicator of jobs rather than early indicators like future inflation and commercial leasing activity. They should look ahead and stop raising interest rates. So, again, he is biased towards what's going to be best for realtors. And let's just kind of break this down section by section to see what makes sense and what doesn't. So first of all, low inflation means low mortgage rates. There's definitely not a direct correlation there, but I understand what he's saying. So like if there's, 2% inflation, or if you have deflation, which is, something the Fed does not want, then that's one way that they can try to like stimulate the economy is lowering their federal funds rate, making it cheaper to borrow money. As a result, that essentially gets passed down to consumers. And that's where eventually, yes, mortgage rates would go lower. So low inflation doesn't directly mean low mortgage rates, but it does help. He says, therefore, decelerating consumer prices could steadily lift home sales and increase home production in a few months. So I don't know if it would happen that quickly, but definitely, I mean, if we do have low mortgage rates, then chances are, more people would be willing to sell their house because we are actually seeing, even with interest rates, mortgage interest rates, being between 6.75% to 7.25% for the majority of this year. Despite that higher interest rate compared to what we've had over the past couple of years, we're still seeing a fair amount of demand. The hard part now is we just are not seeing very many new homes listed for sale. So I think that would, incentivize home sellers who do have a 3% interest rate or something in the high twos, something in the low fours, to feel comfortable putting their house on the market if they were kind of on the fence about doing it before. Where if there's lower mortgage rates, that means the next house that they're buying does become relatively more affordable than what it has been. So I agree with that. And he just said in a few months, I think that interest rates have to remain lower for some sort of duration because this roller coaster ride, this herky jerky up down, doesn't really give uh, homeowners, home sellers, home buyers a ton of confidence that the mortgage rates are going to stay where they're at. So I do think that if we have consistently low mortgage rates or lower mortgage rates, then yes, we can definitely increase the amount of home sales then. So CPI, Consumer Price Index, rose by 3% from 1 year ago, which is much lower than the 8 to 9% hikes of last summer. So yeah, last summer it was pretty crazy when we were seeing 9% inflation year over year. So now the CPI is at 3%. So we are definitely seeing progress. And just like he says, I mean, this stuff takes time. So you can't expect uh, to basically turn on the faucet and have instant results. So CPI only at 3% is definitely in our favor. Rents are still rising, but partly, I mean, just think of supply and demand. Right now, people are keeping their houses for longer because they don't want to basically sell with their interest rate. And with so few houses being available for sale, renters that would be first time home buyers are basically getting priced out, whether it's due to interest rate, house prices not really going down, stuff like that, or because they're one of 10 people that are looking at a house because there's just fewer and fewer homes available for sale. They have to go back and rent sometimes. And as a result, obviously that's a business for whoever's renting that out, whether it's a small mom and pop or whether it's a big institution. And they're taking advantage of the low inventory of houses for sale because they know, this is where they have the upper hand right now. So, of course, they're still increasing their rents, but that has to slow down. It's going to slow down. And especially with what he's saying, with so many empty apartment units under construction, that's going to add to the supply side. So if renters are basically, the amount of renters are staying even, but we're adding more units that are available to rent, then in theory, supply is going up, demand is staying the same, so we should see prices come down. As far as the federal mandate, or Federal Reserve's mandate to contain inflation and help the economy, absolutely that's true. They are starting to contain inflation now. And again, there's a lag time there. And I agree with him. The Federal Reserve misjudged the early strength of inflation, which got out of control. How many times did we hear it in 2021, 2022 that, inflation, this was just, I forgot their term, but they were basically just saying, oh, it's transitory. It's transitory. It's going to go away. But it didn't go away. And they kept the federal funds rate too low for too long. Then they almost overcompensated, not almost overcompensated, they did overcompensate, and they jacked up the federal funds rate and increased it every single time they met for the entirety of last year, basically. And then into this year as well. They finally stopped at the last Fed meeting where they didn't increase the federal funds rate. But now they've probably gone too far. And we saw that when there were some banking collapses, like Silicon Valley Bank. And basically that was a result of the Federal Reserve increasing their Fed funds rate too quickly for them to make an adjustment there too. So monetary policy, it works with a long lag time. Honestly, they need to just cool it right now. I'm not necessarily saying that they should reverse course and reduce their federal funds rate. I think that would be a mistake personally, but they also don't need to do, they've threatened that they might do 2 more quarter point interest rate hikes, and they just don't need to do that right now. It's like they're insistent on breaking the economy, which is still going strong, just based on unemployment numbers, but we're seeing like CPI, which is one indicator. They also have PPI. They have the core CPI, everything like that they look at. But if they're only looking at jobs, then they might be basically oversimplifying this and make a mistake by misjudging that they need to continue to increase their federal funds rate. I think they just press pause, or should just press pause, instead of threatening to go up and up for the next couple of meetings here either. So yeah, I mean, that's basically the only thing that I wanted to go over today. If you have any thoughts on this, I'm definitely not an economist, so this is just because I'm very interested in this stuff. I listen to a lot of economists. I listen to a lot of forecasts. I listen to stock traders, to economists from NAR, from Housing Wire, from a bunch of different sites, and then try to formulate some sort of semblance of an idea that makes sense to me, who is an outsider, admittedly. So if you have a different perspective, let me know. Otherwise, have a great day.